The engines would not start, and my superiors only demanded more sorties. I watched metal freeze, oil thicken, and orders remain unchanged. I built quiet solutions where doctrine left no room. Each morning the aircraft rose, and my name stayed on no report. I returned to my tools, and the system forgot I was there. August 1942. Northern Front, occupied territory near the Gulf of Finland. A forward Luftwaffe airfield operates on a strip of compacted earth. The base supports night bombing and reconnaissance missions. Fuel arrives irregularly by truck. Spare parts arrive rarely. Winter approaches earlier in this region. Command expects uninterrupted sortie schedules. Reality on the ground is different. Aircraft stand exposed without permanent hangars. Canvas covers flap in the wind. Engines cool rapidly after landing. Ground crews work with hand lamps and limited tools. Moisture settles into metal seams each night. Oil thickens. Rubber hardens. Metal contracts. Failures increase. Among the ground personnel is a mechanic named Carl Riedel. He is in his late 20s. He has worked on aircraft engines since before the war. He holds no rank of note. He sleeps in a wooden barracks beside other maintenance staff. His daily routine begins before sunrise. He inspects engines. He listens for irregular vibration. He tightens bolts with worn spanners. He cleans spark plugs by hand. He writes short notes in a grease-stained notebook. Command staff view maintenance as a background function. Sorties and targets receive attention. Airframes and engines are expected to comply. When problems occur, ground crews are expected to solve them silently. By late September, temperatures drop below freezing at night. Morning frost forms on wings. Engines resist ignition. Batteries weaken. The number of aborted takeoffs increases. Pilots complain. Schedules slip. Fuel is wasted during repeated startup attempts. Riedel notices a pattern. Engines that ran smoothly in the evening struggle the next morning. Oil viscosity changes in cold conditions. Standard procedure requires draining oil at set intervals. But oil drums are scarce. Replacement oil arrives late. Official instructions do not account for the cold. He raises the issue with a supervising officer. The officer listens briefly. He responds that procedures are fixed by headquarters. He instructs Riedel to continue standard maintenance. The conversation ends. October arrives. Rain turns to sleet. The airfield becomes mud. Wheels sink. Aircraft require towing by trucks. Tow cables fray. Work takes longer. One night a bomber fails to return. The following morning another aircraft aborts takeoff after engine misfire. A pilot blames the ground crew. Tension rises between aircrew and mechanics. Command demands restored sortie rates. Riedel continues observing. He notices that engines kept running for longer periods during night shifts show fewer cold start problems. He considers heat retention. He studies the metal cowlings. He studies airflow around parked aircraft. He experiments quietly, without formal authorization. He asks a colleague to help reposition one aircraft after landing. They turn it slightly into the prevailing wind. They drape additional canvas over the engine housing. They place empty fuel crates near the underside to reduce exposure to cold ground. It is improvised. It is not standard procedure. The next morning that engine starts with fewer attempts. Riedel notes the result. He repeats the method on another aircraft. Again, better performance. He begins to apply the changes discreetly when time allows. November brings sustained freezing nights. Snow begins to fall. Aircraft are now coated with ice each morning. Ground crews scrape wings by hand. Engines suffer again. Command issues stricter directives. Sorties must not be delayed. Pilots must be ready. Ground crews must ensure immediate readiness. No additional resources are provided. A second mechanic injures his hand while attempting to free a frozen control surface. Work slows further. Riedel takes on additional tasks. He sleeps less. He writes less in his notebook. One night, a bomber lands with engine overheating warnings. Rydell inspects it under lamplight. He finds ice accumulation in an intake section. He removes it carefully. He notes that daytime thaw followed by night freeze creates internal ice. He realizes that static overnight parking is part of the problem. He forms a new idea. If engines could be run briefly at intervals overnight, heat would prevent deep freezing. But fuel is rationed. Unauthorized engine running is prohibited. Noise could attract enemy reconnaissance. Officially, the idea is unacceptable. He considers alternatives. He studies a storage shed near the runway. It contains scrap wood and broken crates. He organizes them into simple windbreak walls beside parked aircraft. He convinces 2 other mechanics to assist. No officer is informed. The result is modest but measurable. Engines behind windbreaks cool slower. Morning startups improve. Rydell notes again. Late November. A severe cold wave hits the region. Night temperatures fall sharply. Engines fail in greater numbers. 2 bombers are grounded completely. Sortie capacity drops. Command responds with anger. Inspections are announced. An engineering officer arrives from headquarters. He reviews maintenance logs. He speaks sharply about discipline. He threatens punishment for deviation from standard procedure. Rydell says nothing. He continues his routine. That night, another engine fails to start. A pilot misses a mission. An officer confronts the ground crew. He demands solutions. Rydell speaks up. He explains his observations. He describes the windbreaks. He describes repositioning aircraft into wind. He describes heat retention. He suggests controlled overnight idle runs of selected engines, limited in time. The officer listens longer this time. Losses have become visible. He agrees to a trial on 2 aircraft. He orders that fuel use be recorded. He warns that failure will result in disciplinary action. The trial begins. 2 bombers are assigned. They are positioned carefully after landing. Windbreaks are reinforced. Engines are run briefly before dawn. Fuel use is noted. Noise is kept minimal. Morning arrives. Both engines start on first attempt. Other aircraft require repeated efforts. Rydell documents the difference. The officer acknowledges the report. He authorizes expanded application under supervision. December sets in fully. Snow deepens. Cold intensifies. The new routine spreads to the whole squadron. Windbreaks appear beside every aircraft. Canvas covers are secured more tightly. Engines receive short pre-dawn idle runs in rotation to conserve fuel. Start failures decrease. Sortie schedules stabilize. Pilots notice the change. Complaints reduce. Command credits improved discipline. Rydell remains unnamed in reports. He returns to his notebook. He writes less now. His method has become routine. January 1943. Enemy reconnaissance increases. Airfield camouflage is tightened. Engine idling schedules are adjusted to avoid detection. Rydell modifies procedures again. He reduces idle duration. He improves windbreak placement. He instructs new mechanics quietly. A new officer arrives. He questions the unusual structures near aircraft. He considers them non-standard. He orders their removal. Rydell presents maintenance records showing reduced failures. The officer reviews them. He allows the structures to remain, but orders that credit be given to headquarters guidelines. No protest follows. Midwinter strains equipment further. A fuel shortage hits the base. Engine idling must be reduced. Rydell adapts again. He experiments with insulating blankets from salvaged material. He lines canvas covers with spare cloth. He directs crews to park aircraft on wooden pallets to reduce ground cold transfer. Small gains accumulate. One night a bomber returns with one engine barely functioning. Rydell works for hours in sub-zero temperature. Metal burns his skin through gloves. He completes a repair. The aircraft flies again the next day. No ceremony follows. March arrives. Temperatures begin to rise slowly. Mud returns. New problems replace old ones. Engines now face moisture rather than ice. Rydell adjusts covers for ventilation. He keeps records. No official recognition arrives. A report from headquarters commends the squadron's winter sortie reliability. No individual names are mentioned. The commanding officer receives acknowledgement. Ground crews continue working. Rydell receives a transfer order in April. He is reassigned to another airfield farther inland. His notebook remains in his bag. His methods remain behind, now standard practice. New mechanics follow procedures without knowing their origin. At the new airfield, conditions differ. Rydell starts observing again. He adjusts to new realities. No one speaks of the previous winter. War continues. Years later, records show that the squadron maintained above-average readiness during the harshest winter months. No explanation is recorded. No footnote exists for the mechanic. He remains one of many names in maintenance rosters. His shortcut was not dramatic. It did not alter grand strategy. It kept engines starting in freezing darkness. It kept aircraft airborne on scheduled nights. It prevented cascading failures in a fragile system. It functioned quietly inside a rigid structure. Institutional memory absorbed the practice. The individual disappeared into routine. The war moved on. Airfields changed hands. Documents were archived. The story survives only through fragments of logs and the silent consistency of maintenance notes. No medal was awarded. No photograph was taken. No speech was given. A lone mechanic adjusted procedure to match reality. The system accepted the benefit and forgot the source. Aircraft continued flying through winter nights. If this account brought value to your understanding of overlooked wartime labor, consider subscribing to support more documented stories of forgotten individuals.